4 wins for Denny Hamlin and the 11 team in 2019. Are they still considered a sleeper pick for the championship 4? Emotions ran high in Bristol, Tennessee, but the story of the night was a guy named Matty D. Hey, everybody. Welcome into Backseat Drivers. Jonathan Merriman has already started laughing at me, so you know it's going to be a good day.
Little freestyle rap to start the show.
We have Jesse Punch on the other side of him. I'm ready for the two of them to get into a debate about Bristol. I know that they have some storylines in mind that they want to talk about. Let's first...
You got bars, seriously.
Thank you. I'm taking that as a compliment. Let's first talk about your takeaways from Bristol. What was the one thing after that race that you guys kind of looked at as your main thing? Wow, Bristol. This is the story.
I didn't see a lot of aluminum in the grandstands. The fans came out for this race. Bristol's had, 2 back-to-back, now 3 back-to-back-to-back, really, really solid night races.
Yep.
So the track is starting to put on better shows, and I know a lot of people are relieved from that. I think, they've established themselves again as the short track to go to in NASCAR. It pains me to say because I'm a Martinsville guy, but, man, that show at Bristol was fantastic. The fans came out. Even, this past spring was a super, super, super good race, competitive race. So that's my takeaway. I mean, they didn't fill the place all the way up, but that place was a lot more full than we've seen in a long time.
Well, even talking to people at Bristol who work there, they said that the campgrounds were completely sold out. Yeah. So even if you didn't see them inside of Bristol, they were there.
Good sign.
Oh, yeah, the Bristol Night Race. I mean, Bristol's great, like you said. They've asserted themselves as the short track to win and to attend. But the Night Race, it just gets better every year. I'm convinced, honestly. This was one of the best we've had in the past couple of years.
Yeah. Well, Denny Hamlin gets the win, but a major storyline to come out of Bristol Motor Speedway was Matt Dibenedetto. He put on quite a show, and I think people thought that it was going to be the underdog, the people's champ in victory lane. Had a little bit of contact with Ryan Newman. Was that the turning point of the race? And was the 3-lap holdup by Ryan Newman okay?
Last question first. Was the 3-lap holdup and the contact with Newman, was that okay? Yes, Newman's racing to get into the playoffs. If Matt Dibenedetto wins that race, that's an added layer of complication for the 6 team. He was racing to not go a lap down. If a caution comes out late, he can cycle back around, make up some more points. He had every right to race him hard. He had every right to race him hard for 3 laps. The contact, I do not think it was intentional, so I would let that go as well. Matt Dibenedetto's got to be fuming about it on the inside. He handled himself after that race with a ton of class.
I was dusty the whole entire...
He did himself a lot of favors by doing that, but at the end of the day, is Newman at fault for Matt Dibenedetto not winning that race? No, he is not. Granted, Matt Dibenedetto did everything he could do, and Newman happened to get into him. But, I mean, it's not a secret that Ryan Newman's hard to pass, right? So if you see the 6 car coming up, maybe move him.
I have an opinion about this. Jesse, you go first.
I mean, I'm more in agreement with you. I think everything about that was fair. Would I say that it was necessarily the turning point of the race? I think when you're looking at a place like Bristol, it's hard to pick a turning point. However, given how much is on the line for both drivers, Newman knows how close he is to making or not making the playoffs, and Dibenedetto knows the announcement that he had to make earlier that week in his questionable ride next year. So given all of those factors, they were both racing hard. Everything was fair. And quite honestly, Dibenedetto said that he was feeling a little tight after that contact there, but then didn't really complain about it much after that. And you could argue that generally when you're going to be on tires as old as the tires he was on, you're going to start to feel a little bit like that. So I don't think you can chalk up anything about Dibenedetto not finding himself in victory lane back to that contact with Newman. I think everything was fair there.
Okay, I disagree with both of you. And I was in Bristol, and after the race, I was a little mad at Ryan Newman just because I understand the playoff position that he's in. But given the fact that you are a veteran, and I know that Ryan Newman is always hard to pass, but did you have to hold him up for 3 laps? Race him hard for a lap or 2, get over it. Kurt Busch, when it was Denny and Matt going at it, moved out of the way. I mean, just move.
Yeah, but at that point, Kurt Busch has won and he's in the playoffs. Denny Hamlin did a better job getting around Ryan Newman. So if Ryan Newman would have had a faster race car than Denny Hamlin or as fast race car, Ryan Newman probably would have raced Denny hard until the end of the race. Side by side, would not have let him go. Guarantee you he would do that. Newman's job isn't to warm heartstrings and let Matty D win the race.
I'm not saying that you have to warm heartstrings.
I know.
Well,
but
and if we know Ryan Newman of all guys, he is not out there to
he's
warm
not.
heartstrings.
We've seen it at ISM a couple years ago. He walled the 42 car because he needed to make it to Homestead, and he got to Homestead and almost won a title. That has been Newman's MO since he's come into the sport. That'll be Newman's MO probably when he's sitting in traffic, when he's 65 years old, going to the grocery store. He's not going to pull over and let you go. And yeah, it ruined what could have been a heartwarming story. And Matty D gets a win when he's going out of this ride and they make the playoffs and this, that, and the other. But at the end of the day, it's racing. It happens. People are upset all the time in terms of
I'm not saying that you don't race him hard. I'm not, but to continue lap after lap to do it, and then to force it so hard that you make contact, regardless of if the contact was the determining factor of Matt continuing to race as hard as he was in the earlier laps, but race it hard, back off. I'm not saying to just completely be like, oh, good story, let's let Cinderella come around me, swoop. That's not what I'm saying at all.
Yeah, but Newman's job is not to lift.
Well, and I think one big factor that we're ignoring here is that we're racing at Bristol. A lot of what we're talking about are just factors of racing at Bristol to begin with. All the storylines with Newman, Dibenedetto, Hamlin aside, this is an element of racing at Bristol. If we were talking about a different track, yeah, I might be a little more angry with Newman, thinking, why'd you hold him up for so many laps? But a lap at Bristol is not very long, and there's not a lot of room at that track. So it's kind of just the nature of what we're working with.
And look, hindsight's 20/20, and if Matt Dibenedetto really wanted to clear the 6 car, he should have put a bumper to him, moved him, and not wasted 3 laps.
I would have been more okay with that.
You know what you get when the 6 car's coming up.
Completely agree, but the fact that it just kept going was where I had an issue. But regardless, I wasn't in the car.
It's going to happen though. It's Newman. He's Newman. He's a splinter.
I do know that with Newman's spot on the playoff bubble, Matt winning would have been terrible for that team.
Oh, it complicates things a lot for him.
So I'm kind of okay with it, but I'm kind of not. All right, well, another guy I know who was kind of not okay with how he started at Bristol or how he finished at Bristol was Kyle Busch. Does he have a reason to worry? He went on the scanner saying that we're getting our butt kicked by our teammates.
Finished 4th, by the way.
Yeah.
But with Kyle Busch, 4th is not good.
Right, but him saying
especially at one of his best tracks where he has 8 wins.
Sure. But he didn't get his 9th win at Bristol. And for Kyle Busch to come over the radio and say, we're getting our butt kicked by our teammates, this guy has the highest standards of any driver in that field.
It is win or you did not do good enough.
Right. So does he have anything to worry about? Kyle Busch has nothing to worry about, in my opinion. Kyle Busch leads every point standings. At JGR, he still has the best average finish. He's finished every race, not a single DNF this season. I mean, if you just want to talk numbers, the means by which we choose the best driver every year, he's still on top. He has nothing to worry about.
Yeah.
I agree and disagree at the same time. I think, when he said, we're getting our butts kicked by our teammates, it's not just Bristol. This has been going on for 5 or 6 weeks. I mean, what we've had, has it been 9 or 10 races?
Since he's won?
Maybe. Yeah. I don't know. Something like that. Was it Pocono?
Too many.
Yeah, I don't know.
Too many for Kyle.
It's been a while for Kyle Busch.
Yeah.
But he's still finishing well. I think the biggest thing that Kyle needs to worry about is that for the first time in a long, long time, Denny Hamlin has got everything clicking for him. He's got the crew chief that works best with him. He's got a crew that's finally meshed this late in the season. He's got 4 wins. He's got playoff points. Bar catastrophe. He's probably going to Homestead.
Are you tasting crow right now?
I'm going to have to eat crow.
Serve it up.
I don't not see Kyle Busch in Homestead either. Kyle Busch is.
Oh, I agree.
If Kyle's good at Indy, he can go out there and win that race. He can lock up the regular season points championship. He has enough playoff points where he can probably top 10 every single race, which he probably will do, and he'll probably make it to Homestead. The problem is when he gets to Homestead, I've never seen Denny Hamlin locked in like this. His, where his head is in the game right now. I mean, he's sharp. He's confident. You could tell after that race that, it was a different Denny Hamlin sitting up there in front of people than it was maybe in 2011 when everything kind of fell apart.
When I talked to Gabe Hart in Victory Lane, and he even said, we're having so much fun this year. It's a completely different type of environment.
The mental game for Denny Hamlin, I think a lot of people would say that's where the hang-up came. And he said it in his post-race press conference. He wasn't mature enough back then, and things kind of fell apart.
He's done 10,000 races now.
Look, it's not – if you think Denny Hamlin's going to fall apart if he makes it to Homestead, I do not see that happening with the guy that I saw in front of everybody after that race in the post-race press conference.
Yep.
He's on kill mode.
Speaking of Denny Hamlin and being able to see his confidence, post-race, immediately, the first thing he did was get out of the car and apologize to Matt Dibenedetto. And that just shows that we're seeing a different Denny, and we're seeing a confident Denny, because a Denny that weren't confident wouldn't have gotten out of that car and recognized what he did and given Matt Dibenedetto the credit that he deserved. I definitely agree with you. We're seeing a very level-headed but confident Denny Hamlin right now.
And, we've seen this throughout the year, too. Texas, he gets busted on pit road for speeding, comes back, wins the race. He had a number of problems.
He was 2 laps down.
He had a number of problems at Bristol, and he did not give up. The team didn't give up. A couple weeks ago we were talking about who's the favorite to win the title. Denny Hamlin right now has established himself as the guy. So I was wrong a couple weeks ago.
That crow must taste really good.
Look, the sport changes every week. So
with Martin Truex Jr. and Kyle Busch both in house over at Joe Gibbs, has Hamlin passed them in the pecking order at the current moment? Let's just take in the last 5 races. Is Denny the guy to beat over there?
I think the 11 team is the team to beat. I think Kyle Busch is still the best driver in NASCAR. Tweet at me if you want to. It's the truth.
At J
a bad day's
Merriman.
4th place. So, and I think Martin Truex Jr. is a great race car driver with the best crew chief in the garage.
Yeah.
And I think the 11 team has the perfect mix of all
everything.
of the above. And I think that's what elevates the team above the other guys.
Currently, the 11 team is hitting their stride better than any other team at JGR. But statistics say, and I can't get away from the numbers, and I'm usually not a numbers person, but Kyle Busch and the 18 team, they asserted their dominance early on. And so I don't know that you can hold it against them with 2 races to the playoffs that we're seeing a little bit of a struggle from them. Yeah, we're 2 away from the playoffs, and they're leading the point standings. They're okay. But yes, currently the 11 team is very much hitting their stride at this moment. Playoffs, way different story.
So a lot of people say that Denny Hamlin is a sleeper pick for the championship 4. He has 4 wins. I think he is a heavy contender for the championship.
Yeah, I was going to
4.
say,
Absolutely.
if
I
he's a
wouldn't say
sleeper
sleeper.
point at this pick,
But it's still like a lot of people. It was like even talked about pre-race that he was still kind of considered. Like when you say who's in your champ 4,
taking Ambien or
even
something.
Even you. When I asked you maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago who your championship 4 was, Denny Hamlin was never uttered.
Yeah, but 3 or 4 weeks have changed the course.
He still had 3 wins.
Yeah, but you're talking about consistency, and when he came out and had this couple of runs, and him and Harvick are battling every single week. A lot can change in this sport in a month.
I agree, but what changed between his 3rd win and his 4th win for you?
He's even with his teammates, who they are the bar, and he's done it. I feel like, he's done it at a time where they haven't been able to do it lately. He's doing it.
Well, that's what I was going to go back to, is we just had a discussion about JGR and which team right now is currently the best. Well, the 11 team, we all agreed, they're currently hitting their stride.
Yep.
And I think that's why people have considered Denny Hamlin a sleeper pick up until now. They're just starting to realize, okay, wait, all 3 of these major JGR guys have 4 wins. Denny's kind of up there in par, if not above Kyle currently with performance consistency. So I think that's why people are just starting to consider him one. But at this moment in time, Denny Hamlin can no longer be considered a sleeper
What a tough
pick.
time to be Joe Gibbs. I mean,
I know,
geez.
rough,
Right.
I
rough
don't know.
life.
I mean, he's got a guy in Christopher Bell who's killing it in Xfinity, probably going to be racing Cup next year. Eric Jones, who is a great young talent, so I mean his future looks pretty good, and he's got 2 champions and a guy who's dominating the sport right now.
And the close relationship with the 95 team right now, who's making headlines.
Geez.
So
how you doing it, Joe?
we saw back in 2018, Brad Keselowski kind of hit this summer heat streak and banked a ton of wins. He looked like an early championship 4 favorite and then got towards the playoffs and backed off. Is Denny and the 11 team, are they peaking too soon? Can you carry this momentum throughout to get you to the Champ 4?
Well, I mean, not to take anything away from Brad's Darlington win last year, but I don't think it was a dominant performance. He had a fast car.
Mm-hmm.
They made a pit call at the end. They were super fast on pit road. And everything kind of worked its way out from there. I think it's a little bit different. We saw Denny got hot early in the year, slowed down a little bit. Now he's getting hot again. I don't think the time of year really coincides with what's going to happen. I mean, look at the tracks in the playoffs. I mean, they suit Denny.
Oh, yeah.
They really suit Denny Hamlin.
We have a lot. Indy, Martinsville. There's a ton coming up where the 11 can continue to win.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, and I always stand by the playoffs are a totally different animal. I think the regular season should be considered one thing and the playoffs another. Because for just like we talk about in the regular season, a driver may be going through a slump. You can have a slump in the playoffs, and a lot of times it might not even be your fault. There can be instances that you get caught up in, and there you go. There's another round gone. So I really consider the playoffs to be a total different animal, but I don't think, like you said, you can deny the fact that there are drivers that it caters to their driving style a little more, that we can maybe predict that success.
I mean, look, Denny Hamlin was super close to winning the Brickyard last year. Mm-hmm. Probably going to be hard to beat this year. Denny Hamlin is really good at Darlington.
Yep.
If he comes out of this year with 2 more wins and 10 more bonus points before the regular season championship bonus points are awarded, however
he is
they
singing
are.
a different tune, ladies and gentlemen.
Well, I mean, it's a game. I mean, it's a game changer. He could realistically come out and win these next 2 weeks, and I would not be surprised. And
Me
then
either.
he takes 30 playoff points plus his stage points or whatever bonus points he gets into the playoffs. I mean, the round of 8, you go through Martinsville and Texas and Phoenix. They're all good tracks for Denny.
All right. Well, Denny's not worried about the bubble trouble playoff picture, but I know a couple guys who are. Let's look at the playoff picture now. Suarez is now in. Clint Bowyer is now out, which we had Kim Kuhn on here last week. She predicted that, so it happened. Jimmie Johnson is now in a 26-point hole. He is not in the playoffs.
Nope.
And Eric Amarola lost some ground, but he still seems to be okay. So the bottom 3 right now, Eric Jones is 57 to the good. Ryan Newman, 14 to the good. Suarez, 2. Then you have the cutoff line. Bowyer is 2 behind. Jimmie Johnson is 26 behind. So I'm a little worried about 48.
I think 48's worried about the 48 now.
Yeah.
I don't think they were a couple weeks ago.
Indy is a good place for him, though.
I've also not been on the
Absolutely.
show for a few weeks, too, so I haven't been able to come on here and give my opinion. And I said the 48 was going to make the playoffs. I don't know about that.
I don't either.
I mean,
I'm pretty sure last time I was on here, it was you and I said the 48 should be in trouble, and you looked at me like I had 3 heads.
yeah, but we had like
So
10 races
I want to
to
take
go.
what's mine and say the 48 might feel like they're in trouble.
I mean, he's.
And I never want to doubt Jimmie Johnson. Ever want to doubt Jimmie Johnson. But I just need to take that. So.
I think for the first time in his career, he's going to miss postseason. He's not going to be in the conversation. And I mean, I don't know. I mean, I just don't think it's going to happen.
So let's look at it. Eric, in your mind, is done. Done deal.
Eric
Jones is in.
Well, look, Eric Jones isn't safe either. I mean, he's
57 above.
yeah, but
I mean, that's a race.
That's a race.
Yeah.
So until we're halfway through Indianapolis, I don't think he's safe.
Ryan Newman. in or
Ryan,
out?
I think Ryan Newman's in. I think Ryan Newman punched his ticket with not letting Dibenedetto pass him for holding him up 3 laps. Matt, I mean, that was
Too soon, man.
That's a big money decision for Ryan Newman. I think it's going to pay off.
Okay.
Defining moment in his season.
Oh,
you could say.
absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, so between Daniel Suarez and Clint Bowyer, they are 2 points apart.
Got two guys trending in two different directions, and Suarez is riding the wave of momentum. Look, Clint Bowyer can't buy a break right now.
I know.
He cannot.
He is getting more and more frustrated, I think, as the weeks go on, too.
He was in position, had trouble on the racetrack. As a result, he had to pit, got no stage points. Suarez finishes second in the stage because of the caution that Bowyer brought out, and that was the swing that put Suarez in and Bowyer out.
Here's what stands out to me about that, is that I feel like all season long we've been hearing Daniel Suarez should feel a little bit of heat. Daniel Suarez, is he going to be able to perform this season to keep his ride? We're not talking about Clint Bowyer, but the numbers, look at them. They're right there next to each other. Are we going to have a different tune after this week or after the playoffs start when it comes to what's going to shake up there next season? What do you guys think?
I don't know. I mean, things are just so wide open. I look at these next 2 weeks, and I mean, I'll be honest with you. I haven't looked at Suarez's stats at Indy. I haven't looked at Suarez's stats at Darlington. I do know that Clint Bowyer has said repeatedly he has not been able to seal the deal at Darlington. He runs a solid race, gets to the end, and then something happens. You know, Indy might be a bigger factor in this thing than we thought. I mean, I think everybody looks at Indy, oh, well, Kyle Busch, Martin Truex Jr., they're all super fast there. You know, they'll probably go out and win that race, whoop-de-doo. I don't think that's going to be the case. I think, you know, between Newman, Suarez, and Bowyer, and maybe Jimmie Johnson, because he does have a ton of wins at that racetrack, Indianapolis.
And knows that's his only shot of making the playoffs?
I mean, I don't know. I mean,
So who gets in right now for you guys? Clint
Newman.
Bowyer or Daniel Suarez?
Suarez.
I'm going to go with Suarez.
Wow. Okay. All right. So now let's play a little green flag or caution. Both of you guys know how to play because we have some vets on the team, but we'll see how it goes. All right. First one, Bristol is officially back. Green flag or caution?
Green flag on that, yeah. Bristol's back. Using the PJ one perfectly on the bottom.
Yep.
I actually liked what they did to the top groove. I know some drivers might not have liked that, but yes, it made for fantastic racing all 3 nights we were there.
Absolutely. Bristol is 100% back.
Green flag it all day long. All right. Next up, Eric Jones gave that race away in the end. Green flag or caution?
Oh, you just took me off guard with this one. No, I don't think he gave it away. I wouldn't say that, but I would say he might not agree with me on that. I'll just put it that way.
I think he gave it away. I think Matt Dibenedetto had a faster car at the time, but I think as a whole, I think the 20 car was a better race car.
So caution out for Jess.
Yeah.
Green
out.
flag.
Yes.
He handed it to him.
All right. This is going to be a rough one, too. The 48 team will win this year, not just before the playoffs, from now till Homestead.
Yellow flag. Not going to happen. That's not going to happen. I mean, look, I think moving away from Kevin Meendering, you know, I think that's going to set them back a little bit. And maybe when we get to Martinsville, you know, Texas, ISM, Homestead, maybe it'll be a different tune. I mean, we say it all the time, a lot can change. But I don't think a win is in their, immediate future.
Wow. Okay.
Just for the sake of going against you and never wanting to doubt Jimmie Johnson and the 48 team, I'm going to throw a green flag on that. Now, we've already talked about he's not going to point his way into the playoffs. It's not going to happen. His best shot is a win at Indy, which it's a win. So, but I think not making the playoffs could be the factor that they need to pull off a win in the playoffs. So I'm going to green flag that one just because I have so much faith in Jimmie Johnson.
If he gets a win this year, his season is a success, though. I will say that much.
Oh, absolutely.
Which is
even if he misses
scary.
the playoffs.
Okay. All right. Next up, Harvick wins again before the playoffs start. So that would mean that he has to win either Indy or Darlington.
Nope. Doesn't do it.
Why?
Because Kyle Busch, Denny Hamlin, and Martin Truex Jr. entered in those races.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm going to give a big NO on that one as well.
Okay. That one was easy. All right. And then finally, Penske has lost ground to Joe Gibbs Racing. We were talking about Team Penske the whole beginning of the year. It was Joey Logano and Brad Keselowski's races to lose. Now it's Denny Hamlin, Martin Truex Jr., and Kyle Busch. So who's going?
I'll give a green flag to that. And I would say that it's Gibbs, it's Hendrick and Penske, and then everybody else. So I would say that, they're equivalent to Hendrick Motorsports right now. I think Chase Elliott's rebounded nicely, but, Joe Gibbs Racing is just on fire right now.
I'm green flagging that as well, but I've said that Joe Gibbs Racing was the dominant team all season long. I sat here and argued with Chase Wilhelm about it. I distinctly remember that conversation. So no, green flag on that for sure, and I agree with you. I think they've fallen a little bit more in line with Hendrick at this point in the season.
All right, well, people seem to like Matt Dibenedetto because, fun fact for you guys, he gained 17,000 followers in the last 48 hours.
Dang.
Wow.
So, no big deal for Matty D out there.
You think if you think Newman's Twitter traffic is holding him up?
Maybe. three laps down, guys. 3 laps down. All right. Well, it is an off week for the Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series, but we'll be right back here in Studio 3 before we head to the Southern 500 of Darlington. We're excited to get to South Carolina. It's Throwback Weekend. We'll see you guys next time.